Hello all loonies and normals, my name is Joe Silver, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about reused tropes in video games. I mean, have you ever noticed how some video games you play and you look at and you know exactly where the story is going because the story has gone there on pretty much almost every other video game you've ever played? You look and you think, well, I could see where this is going a mile off. Have you ever noticed that? I mean, really, it happens in so many games. Let me give you an example. Your hero, the one you're supposed to be playing, they start off and they're just doing their thing, whatever it is that they do when they're not actually out heroing, yeah? So it's just like it's an ordinary day for them, it starts off. And basically that's the tutorial, is that you just learn how to move and maybe you're playing a game or something within the game, yes, but whatever, and you're just like, well, this is fine, and then a bad guy appears, bang, yeah, and like I say, well, that's fine. I mean, you expect a bad guy to appear because it's a video game. So the bad guy appears and he says, I'm going to take over the world, I'm going to destroy the world, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do the other, yak, 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 you know how it is. And so you then become the hero, because apparently only you can save the world. And then you start kicking butt, taking names, doing exactly what is expected of you. But along the way, there are characters that are joining your troop, people who are saying, oh, I want to come help, and so you're like, okay, fair enough, maybe it's not just me who can do it, maybe these other people can as well, so you say, yeah, okay, you join them. And then there's always there is one character who's a bit shifty, who, seen sneaking away, or just, even if they don't do anything to arouse suspicion, they're just, something about them is just not right, and you look and you think, I don't trust that character. Why are they behaving that way? And you can see it coming a mile off when they betray you. I mean, seriously, that trope has been used so much that in our minds, whenever a new character joins, we're immediately thinking, is this the one who's going to betray us? Because we see it coming. They've reused the trope so much. I mean, seriously. And and there's other tropes like that as well, where this that you could probably think of. I mean, there's so much that they just keep reusing. Like, for example, if the hero doesn't get betrayed, one of your troop, one of those people who you picked up along the way, they go into this battle all raging, and then suddenly something happens, and it's like, no, and the character dies, and you're like, oh. And you can see it coming. It's like, you wonder which one of these is going to betray me, and if not, which one's going to die. It's like, they're so old and tired. We've seen it before. I mean, isn't it time you got something new? I mean, it really is. It's they reuse this stuff. Now, don't get me wrong. Hollywood does exactly the same. Going back to the Christopher Reeves Superman, so that should tell you how far back it goes. Yeah? There is the trope of the secret identity. Now, what you're going to say, well, what do you mean? Of course Superman had to have a secret identity. No, not having one. The hero will have a secret identity, quite correct, but then what will happen is he will have a girl that he likes, a girl that he's maybe fallen in love with, or he fancies, or whatever. And he knows that if he doesn't tell her who he is, it's going to ruin their relationship, because he's going to have to keep popping off and doing hero things. Again, quite right, he's the hero. So he tells her. And then you can guarantee almost every time when he tells her, something is going to happen. Either they forget, be an attack, an energy pulse, you name it. Whatever it is, something happens to that particular girl, and when she wakes up from whatever happens, she's forgotten. She doesn't remember the day she had with her hero. She doesn't remember the fact that he's told her who she is. And the hero, instead of saying, well, actually there's something I want to tell you, turns around and says, actually, do you know what, it's better if I don't tell. And they'd never tell. And it's like, oh, come on. Again, this goes back as far as Christopher Reeves. I think it was the second Superman. Now I know I don't normally do movies and I don't normally do TV programs. I am watching a lot of them at the moment, but I don't normally do that. But my point is that it goes to the same theme. Reuse tropes. People, recycle this stuff over and over again because it's easy. The video games, like I say, are the ones that I'm really talking about because it's usually video games that I talk about. And like I said, you could probably find other things as well that where they reuse this stuff. I mean, let's face it. Final Fantasy is just one big reused trope. You play one Final Fantasy, you've played them all. The hero comes along, the hero does its hero thing, and then dies. That's basically all of Final Fantasies. I mean, I've never played them because I was never a fan, but I know enough to know that's how they all end, because basically, apparently, I was told each time that it's a different hero each time in each game, and that's why. Because my biggest problem with Final Fantasy was its title. It's called Final Fantasy, and there is about 16 of the things so far. 15, 16 of the things. How many Final Fantasies can someone have? It's final, as in last. But we won't go into that because I'm sure my comments will be flooded with you people telling me why it's called Final Fantasy, about, the game company thought it was going to be their last game. They thought that this game was going to flop like all their others had, and it took off. Okay, fair enough, I'll give them that, but my point is, couldn't they have made another game then, similar game, that not called Final Fantasy, that would therefore have been as successful now that people knew who they were? Well, that's an argument for another day, for another week, maybe another week I'll talk about making sequels to games and how many do we need. But this week it's about the reused tropes, and honestly, like I said, it happens throughout so many different games. So many times where you're thinking, I've seen this in an X game or Y game, because they're basically copying from each other. Can't they for once come up with a twist that we can't see coming a mile away? Now, I've never played BioShock, but I know the twist at the end because I've seen it on like Watch Mojo or something, and I have to say that is an example of a game giving you a twist that you can't possibly see coming. Now, I'm going to warn you right now, this might spoil the game for some of you, so if you don't want to find out, feel free to skip ahead. However, for those of you who are still watching and haven't skipped ahead, the twist at the end is the expression, "would you kindly." I'll tell you what, just so it's not too much of a spoiler, I won't go into why that expression is the twist at the end. But let's just say that that twist is one that you really couldn't see coming, because it's just an expression. It sounds like just somebody being polite. Would you kindly hand me this? Would you kindly do this? Would you kindly do that? But apparently that expression has a different meaning to the hero of the game. That's all I'm going to say, because I don't want it to be too big a spin. Now, I've never played BioShock because it's such a violent game and I'm not into them. But I saw that twist at the end and I thought, well, fair enough, I'll give them that one, because that is something that you really couldn't see coming. How could you? Now, those of you who played Bioshock are probably thinking, well, we know what the twist is, why are you worried about spoilers? But some of you may not have done, so if not, I don't want to be too big a spoiler for you. But my point is this, you know, isn't it time that they started doing things like that? Twists that you looked at and you thought, well, I didn't see that coming a mile away. I mean, the other thing is as well, is, you know, the other thing is when they're reaching to get a twist, like a character will act in a certain way and you go, okay, well, what the heck? Because all the way through they behave one way and then suddenly they turn around and it's like, dude, you're reaching for a twist now. I mean, it might be the character who betrays you and you could say, well, that's why, but sometimes you just look and you think you're reaching. But seriously, like I said, the things are so reused, and I'm going to be honest, I'm probably repeating myself now, and therefore I'll sign off now. But my point is made. Get some new material. Anyway, I have been Joe Silver. This has been a vlog. If you've liked what you've seen here, leave me a comment down below. Leave me a sub. Leave me a like. And I'll see you next week. Bye bye.